On the 4th of December 2012, Iran's military made a shocking announcement. The 9 o'clock news conveyed the message. Iran had intercepted a US RQ-170 Sentinel spy drone. At first, the news was denounced far and wide as highly improbable. Analysts scoffed at the idea, saying a drone with such up-to-minute technology couldn't have been brought down, certainly not in one piece. Iran's military claims it intercepted the drone 140 miles inside Iran's airspace. But for 2 days after the news, the US remained silent. Only then did it respond, saying a drone had crashed along the Afghan-Iran border. But then came the footage, video of the Iranian military displaying a surprisingly intact US spy drone. As can be expected, considering the long-standing feud between Washington and Tehran, all this was big news. An indirect war of words ensued. Iran claims it brought the spy drone down safely after hacking into its control system. The US refutes this, saying the only explanation for its descent could be technical malfunctions. Washington claims the spy drone is the one pronounced lost in eastern Afghanistan earlier in the month. But Iran is not buying into that, saying the drone violated Iranian airspace, calling it a blatant provocation for which it complained to the UN Security Council.
It was a clear violation of international law, and it was somehow a sign of hostility that Americans have practiced throughout the years towards Iran in terms of not respecting the territorial integrity of Iran. In that sense, legally speaking, Iran has every right to complain to the United Nations and the other legal bodies in international system to file and to sue Americans to be somehow accountable for what they did.
The use of the drone predators and reapers by President Obama, I think on the face constitutes a war crime. It is extrajudicial, it is extra-legal killing, it is assassination. And the United States is now manufacturing thousands of these weapons, and there is every indication that it would prefer to use drone bombers rather than manned planes, which involve some risk to the American military. Whereas the drone bombers are dispensable and disposable.
Iran has every right to respond to this invasion, basically, of the airspace of the country. They can shoot down the planes that come through without permission. In this case, I think the Iranian military officials wanted to capture this drone because of the technology that was involved with it.
Washington did not apologize for the incident. Instead, US President Barack Obama asked Iran to return the drone that Washington says went AWOL, but Iran has flatly refused to do so. The $6 million Sentinel flies at 50,000 feet, is said to be pretty rare technology, equipped with radar, a fuselage, a coating that makes it low observable, and very high-tech electronics.
I was always imagining that what would be the reaction of the United States if that was the case was somehow reversed. Just suppose that the United States was captured an Iranian drone flying over the one of the states of the United States, approaching New York City or Washington, D.C., for example. What would be their reaction? I mean, I'm sure that very soon they would react militarily.
Iran says it is fully aware of the drone's technological caliber and will be using reverse engineering to reproduce it soon. Iran is working on mastering the technology to build unmanned aerial vehicles.
به نوعی هواداریا ادامه مجموعه شناوری ماست که ما را قادر میکنه با سرعت‌های چند برابری و در شرایط متفاوت از شرایط شناوری بتوانیم با استفاده از همون سلاحایی که بر روی شناورها و بر روی ساحل داریم بر روی وسایل هواداریمون پایه سوم توان رز در نیروی سپاه رو رقم بزنیم. الان گشت‌های هوایی توسط سپاه در حال انجام هست. هواپیمای بدون سرنشین ما دائم بر بالای سر ناوهای امریکایی هستن و این کنترل یک کنترل همه جانبی هست که در حال انجام است.
ما به دقیق میتونیم بگیم که فلان ناو آمریکایی یا فرامنطقی در کجای خلیج فارس وجود داره، زیر دید ما هستن با تجهیزاتی که الحمدلله داریم.
Clearly tensions are heating up. Both countries, both the United States and Iran, not to mention Israel, I'm sure have formidable cyber capabilities. And it would not at all be surprising if these capabilities were used against one another or in order to put pressure on one another as part of international politics.
It's common knowledge that US drones are controlled by a coded internal positioning system, and that if one of them loses contact with its base, it either terminates the mission and returns to base or self-destructs. Having done neither after its alleged disappearance, it can be concluded that the RQ-170 turning up in Iran was not a mistake. It can also be concluded that Iran might very well have manipulated its control system to bring it down in one piece. But this is just the latest chapter in a saga of bitter exchanges between the US and Iran. In recent years, the US has been waging a cyber war against Iran. Stuxnet, the computer worm discovered in 2010, is a good example of this. The worm is a virus that infiltrates, spies on, and subverts Siemens industrial software and equipment. The virus was supposed to completely cripple Iran's centrifuge control equipment, but failed to do so. Many experts believe that Israel and the United States created and deployed Stuxnet.
It appears to me that Stuxnet was produced by foreign power. I think it's conventional wisdom that it may have been a joint project of the United States and Israel. But we don't have any specific confirmation with respect to that.
Wherever it came from, European and US officials say Iranian engineers have succeeded in neutralizing and purging the Stuxnet computer virus from the country's nuclear machinery.
The Americans and Israelis were not that silent about that. I mean, somehow they have been talking about it publicly. But again, the question is that to what extent Iranian will be patient, and to what extent they will adopt a policy of restraint and not retaliate the same way that they are approaching Iran. I mean, the Stuxnet issue was one of those very classic examples that the West, especially the United States and Israelis, try to sabotage.
The US government has to be quite careful in terms of engaging in such activities, because if some other country, China or Russia or some other country, sees what the US is doing, and they obviously see it, and then this can be a precedence for other countries to engage in similar things. And then the US cannot complain about such activities because they were first to start this type of behavior internationally.
And the covert operations don't stop there. On May 21, 2011, Iran broke up a spy network. The operation led to the arrest of 30 agents. Iran's intelligence says it has evidence that they all belong to the CIA. Another 42 agents belonging to the spy ring were arrested in various countries as well. These agents were recruited via the net. By creating fake online job-finding centers, people would be recruited, preferably those who were useful because of the organization they worked for. Parallel to the surreptitious actions against Iran in the form of drones, computer worms and spy networks, Iran is the subject of various allegations on a regular basis.
All right, now, Martha, there was new information
on the 11th of October 2011, the US media machine went into overdrive. US officials alleged there was a plot to assassinate Saudi Ambassador Adel al-Jubair in the United States. But more importantly, that this plot was conceived, sponsored and directed by Iran.
Today, the Department of Justice is announcing charges against two people who allegedly attempted to carry out a deadly plot that was directed by factions of the Iranian government to assassinate a foreign ambassador here in the United States. Mansour Arbabsiar, a naturalized...
On the 11th of October 2011, Iranian national/American citizen Mansour Arbabsiar and Iranian citizen Gholam Shakuri were charged in federal court with plotting the assassination. They are also alleged to have elicited the help of a Mexican drug cartel. But the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations, Mohammad Khazai, promptly responded to the allegations with a letter stating the Iranian nation's outrage over the allegations, while strongly and categorically rejecting them. That hasn't stopped Washington from issuing statement after statement about the yet unresolved case. And it hasn't stopped people like Jack Kane, a retired four-star general and former Vice Chief of Staff of the United States Army, and Raoul Marc Gresht, who served as a case officer at the CIA, primarily working on Middle Eastern targets, saying the US must assassinate General Soleimani. All this aside, analysts in the US itself don't find the allegations convincing.
There has been no evidence to prove this alleged attack by, or this alleged plot. It's not even an attack, it's a plot by Iran to commit murder in the United States. It's generally regarded by much of them, even the American news media regards this as ludicrous.
Nevertheless, based on what is still nothing more than an unproven allegation, the House Foreign Affairs Committee has voted to expand sanctions against Iran. The investigation into the 9/11 attacks on New York and Manhattan is ongoing. And only recently, attorneys in the case have claimed to have evidence that Iran actively assisted the hijackers of the planes that crashed into the World Trade Centers at the Pentagon and into a field in Pennsylvania. They also accuse Iran of training al-Qaeda back then and continuing to support them now by providing it with material support, resources, and offering its leadership a safe haven.
To say that Iran assisted the 9/11 hijackers is ludicrous. I don't believe it has been demonstrated who the 9/11 hijackers are to any degree of certainty. What is known that on 10/11, when anthrax weapons were used against members of the American Senate and American news media, it is known that those attacks emanated from Fort Detrick, Maryland, and they were caused by the United States. The 9/11 attack may also have been perpetrated in-house. It may have been a false flag operation which was devised by Americans to give them a pretext to attack Afghanistan. And Iraq and the Middle East. To say that Iran was behind this is ludicrous, but it is part of the Western propaganda now.
Throughout the last decade, Iran's nuclear energy program has been the pretext to a lot of negativity toward Iran. The US and its allies accuse Iran of seeking nuclear weapons, demanding it suspend its activities indefinitely until they are satisfied this is not the case. Iran denounces nuclear weapons as against the nation's Islamic faith, is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and has allowed more than 4,000 man-hours of inspections. The IAEA has yet to find any evidence to support the allegations against Iran. But based on those allegations, the UN has slapped 4 rounds of US-led sanctions on Iran. The US and its allies regularly remind the world that regarding Iran, all options are on the table. Iran and the US have a history of hostility which goes back to the Pahlavi dynasty, even before the Islamic Revolution. Back then, Iran's monarchy, with the Shah at the helm, was subservient to the West. The foreigners had a say in everything, and Iran's resources, the most important being oil, flowed out of Iran dirt cheap. No interruption of this outflow could be allowed. In 1951, Iran's democratically elected Mohammad Mossadegh made a brave decision that would result in him losing his position and spending the rest of his life under house arrest. He nationalized Iranian oil. In 1953, the US and Britain, via a covert CIA operation called Operation Ajax, orchestrated a coup to overthrow Mossadegh's government.
There is no question, as a matter of fact, as a matter of historical record, that the United States in 1953 had the Central Intelligence Agency overthrow the entire government of Iran, and following which there was a mass slaughter. The Shah of Iran was put on the throne, a king was put on the throne, a Democratic Party was knocked out of power, and thousands of Iranians were killed. This is a matter of historical fact that the United States has already attacked Iran in the past by engineering the 1953 CIA overthrow. And what happened after that was a transfer of the oil resources in Iran to Western oil companies.
A year after the Islamic Revolution finally managed to diminish Western influences over Iran, the US supported Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein in his attack on Iran. The US gave Saddam intelligence and weaponry and made sure no other country dare sell Iran arms. Then on July 3, 1988, US missiles shot down an Iranian Airbus, killing the 290 people on board. Only 7 minutes after it took off. The men of the Vincennes guided missile cruiser that launched the attack from Iranian waters, not international waters, received medals of honor for their performance in the combat zone. Only 4 days after the Islamic Revolution succeeded, terrorist attacks inside Iran began. Throughout the war and since, terrorist groups have killed 17,000 Iranians. Groups like the Mujahideen Khalq organization, which fought alongside Saddam's forces during the Iran-Iraq War and is responsible for the death of 12,000 Iranians. Alireza Jafarzadeh is the MKO representative in Washington, often interviewed on Fox News and other news networks as an expert on Iran's affairs. Tondar, or the Kingdom Assembly of Iran, killed 24 people, including 2 children, in a bomb attack in Shiraz. This group has an office in Los Angeles. The Jundullah terrorist group, based in neighboring Pakistan, has killed more than 450 Iranians. The group's leader, Abdul Malek Rigi, was arrested in February 2010. In his confessions, he talks about the US support his group received.
اینا گفته بودن ما در اونجا یک پایگاهی داریم، پایگاه مناس که در نزدیکی شهر بیشکک اسمی داره، در نزدیکی اون هست. در اونجا اون چون که گفته بودن نفر خیلی بزرگی میخواد بیاد و این نفرات خیلی کلان وقتی اگر بیان در کشوری دیگه بالاخره اطلاعات های دیگه مثل اطلاعات امارات یا دیگه این افراد را زیر نظر میگیرن که این شخص به این بزرگی اشخاص رسمی بزرگ هستن برای چی اومدن. ولی در اونجا چون که اینا پایگاه دارن این همچین تصوری پیدا نمیشه و این شخص خیلی شخص بزرگ، گفته بودن یکی از مقامات بلند نظامی هست که میخواد بیاد با حاجی ملاقات بکنه و همه چیزها را در اینجا تموم بکنه که آیا میشه این ارتباطات را ارتقا داد یا نه، میشه به اینها دوام داد یا نه.
In the past few years, 4 Iranian nuclear scientists have been assassinated. This is the newest form of outright aggression toward Iran. Masoud Ali Mohammadi was killed on the 12th of January 2010. Majid Shahriari on the 22nd of November 2010. Daryush Rezai-Nejad on the 23rd of July 2011. And Mustafa Ahmadi Roshan on the 11th of January 2012. US hostility toward Iran has been put into 3 categories. The first is Iran's geopolitical situation.
One, of course, goes to the regional setting. That means the region is changing. The change is due to the uprising in the Arab world, what we call here Islamic awakening, or they call it Arab Spring. It is creating strategic spaces for Iran. The fact that Mubarak has gone and there is a defunct Mubarak is a plus, because he was one of the stumbling block in the Iranian-Arab relationship, and he was very anti-Iran, I have to say. Now he is not there.
The second is the general US attitude and policy toward Iran, which has led to the Islamic Republic becoming a key campaigning tool in the run-up to the US presidential elections.
First of all, maximum covert operations to block and disrupt the Iranian program, including taking out their scientists, including breaking up their systems, all of it covertly, all of it deniable. Second, maximum coordination with the Israelis in a way which allows them to maximize their impact in Iran. Third, absolute strategic program comparable to what President Reagan, Pope John Paul II, and Margaret Thatcher did to the Soviet Union, of every possible aspect short of war, of breaking the regime and bringing it down.
This is bizarre. This is somehow disgusting when we see that how frankly they are talking about the methods and ways which are not acceptable, which is not somehow legal in dealing with.
Not only would Gingrich support this, but Santorum would support this, and every Republican candidate, with the exception of Ron Paul, would support this kind of criminal intervention. And it is criminal intervention, make no question about that. But it's also historic in American presidential campaigns for the candidates to out-military the other candidate, to show that they are tougher and they believe in a stronger America.
And the third, Mr. Sajjadpour says, is the pressure Israel puts on the US to make Iran the hot topic of the Middle East, not the Palestinians.
Netanyahu and his team, they were under pressure in the early years of Obama administration to change their policies toward Palestinians. But the US administration really got stuck in what the Israeli establishment responded to him. And Netanyahu and the Zionist entity tried to make, instead of the Palestinian issue to be the number one issue, which is really the number one issue in the region, a pseudo issue that is Iran. And bringing the issue of Iran and under this flame of hostility somehow cover the other deficiencies, including what they have domestically in Israel and what they have regionally and what they have globally.
The US is threatening to attack Iran if it doesn't bow down to pressure. Iran says it never has and never will go on the offensive, but if attacked, it will defend itself. History shows Iran has never really gained from relations with the US, but Tehran says it has never ruled out the idea of burying the hatchet. That is, if there's mutual respect involved. Iran's been through revolution, war, and economic hardship to claim its independence and refuses to go back to subservience.